Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. On the agenda tonight, we have Brian May, and this is going to be Brian's performance of guitar solo / Last Horizon, and this is probably circa 2013. It looks around that kind of time, but let's get Brian up on screen and see how he gets on. And I'm just going to jump in here just to break down that very first section. What you'll find on stage is there's sweet spots which will give you feedback. And here Brian, he's even tilting the guitar backwards slightly, hence the reason I think for the box, just to rest the guitar back up against himself, just to get the angle exactly right so that he gets that feedback. But Brian has got such a great tone and he's an absolute master of his gear and getting exactly the right tone for the situation. And here he's in total control of this tone. It's one of those tones that's always dancing on that line of feedback. In the hands of someone not quite as seasoned as Brian, I'm sure that feedback would start to take over and become a little bit uncontrollable, whereas Brian's always in perfect control of what's going on. And Brian May is the absolute master, for me personally, of vibrato. He's one of those players that when I heard him play and I was learning to play, I thought, I've got to try and do that vibrato. How is he doing it? So I spent a long time trying to master it, and Brian is totally unfazed all the time. What you'll find with some players is when the adrenaline kind of kicks off and they start getting a bit excited, the first thing to be affected is their vibrato. It will speed up. Brian is always absolutely rock solid with his vibrato. Another thing to notice here is the fact that Brian, when he uses his whammy bar, is going to be matching his on-fret vibrato at exactly the same frequency with that whammy bar vibrato. So it gives such a really nice consistent sound throughout his whole playing. Again, other players you might have seen, when they use the whammy bar, it's a totally different sound to what they've been playing with the left hand on the fretboard. And sometimes they might be going for that, but some people can't control it, especially on the left hand. If that whammy bar is not the same as the left hand, usually it's a case that the left hand is a little bit out of control and they always fall into a vibrato rather than intentionally playing a particular frequency of vibrato. Probably the thing that I love the most about Brian's playing is that throughout his whole career, he has never ever played a solo to show off. He's always played whatever the song requires. When you get to his 20 or 30 second solo in a song, you know that Brian is not going to just lay down as many aces as he can and show you what technique he's been working on recently that he's managed to speed up and try and, impress you with speed. It's always going to sit perfectly with the song. And it's such a different level of musicianship to take a step back and see what the song needs rather than what you want to put onto the track, but just the fact that he's always in control of what he's doing. You never feel like Brian loses his way or panics or is flustered at any point. He's just totally confident, always in control, and you can relax listening to his playing because that confident aura that he just puts out there puts you at ease, and you just take his playing for the art that it is. But let's get into listening to a little bit more. I'm just going to jump in again because that is Brian in a nutshell. Absolute melody. Melody is king. I always say this. And also, just as a workshop in vibrato there, you could see how everything was so controlled all the time. And also, as we saw there, the fact that Brian's got total control of the dynamics here as well. The fact that he's taken a little bit of volume off for that slightly understated sound, taken a little bit of the gain, the overdrive sound off. But then when he wants to open the taps a little bit, give it a little bit more of a kick, you could see just that volume. When he changes the dynamics and has that little kick, it makes you feel something different, even though the lines would be the same and we're still playing in the same scale and the same key, but because of that change in dynamics, it makes you feel something different. And that's what all the great players can do. Let's just listen to a little bit more. And I'm just going to come in here because Brian is so great at vibratoing at the top of bends. Have a little look through this performance, and all of his performances, all the stuff on Queen, whenever he does bend up a string, he's always got the same vibrato as he's got on the frets. Another thing about Brian is that he's got his own tone, and how many players can you say that about, where even when he's playing a little solo section that isn't a Queen song, he'll play just a chord or a fill that sounds like it's the Queen track, and then he's going to go into the track, but it's just because of his tone. But for me, that's the ultimate, having a player that just sounds like themselves and nothing like anybody else. How many players have I analysed on here? I mean, I do a new one every night, so there's a hell of a lot of guitarists right at the top of the game. But how many just sound like themselves, and how many sound a bit like this player and a bit like the other player? It's so rare to find a player that can just sound like themselves and have got their own tone. That is a perfect match. And Brian's showing you here, you don't need to throw a million notes in someone's face to make something impressive. You can slow it down and just do something that's melodic and is going to make the audience feel something. How many times have you gone and seen someone sing and they've done vocal shredding where it's just loads of notes in your face and you can't really decipher anything because it's so fast? It never happens. When somebody's singing, they're emoting because they're singing slowly, and every note has a meaning to it. And that's exactly what Brian brings to his guitar playing. The fact that he's making every note count and making you feel something about every note. And I've always said this, it's not how many notes you can fit into a performance, it's how many notes you can make count in that performance. Just playing so that it actually means something, getting these notes to emote something. And I haven't even mentioned Queen, the fact that he was such a great vocalist as well, backing vocalist and lead vocalist, and just added so much to that combination of top musicians that Queen were. I mean, they were so great. Everyone could write a song, but if I start talking about Queen, this video is going to go on for about 8 years, but I don't want it to go on for too long. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. I'm going to put the link to this in the description so you guys can check out the whole video if you want to. I highly recommend that you do. But thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys at the next one. Rock!